every unlockable weapon in Team Fortress 2 is a side grade. Each of these weapons excel in some ways or situations, but all have drawbacks somewhere. And as a whole, TF2 has often been given praise for its balance between classes and their weapons. But sometimes the TF2 developers will add a weapon to the game or make changes that were just clearly not well thought out or tested. So let's take a trip back through time as we take a look at the top 10 most overpowered weapons in TF2 history. The only stock weapon to make it onto the list, the Stickybomb Launcher's balance was put into question for many years after the game's launch. The relative ease and effectiveness of spamming sticky bombs made the changes it got over the years pretty warranted. The Stickybomb Launcher was given small nerfs several times throughout the years, but in the Love and War update, all sticky bombs were given a 2-second damage ramp up after firing. This nerf turned out to be so harsh and ill-received by a good portion of the players that it was reverted only 5 days later. The Christmas update of 2014, which more or less acted as one big demo rebalance update, gave airborne sticky bombs damage ramp up and lowered the overall explosion radius of the bombs to equal that of rockets. This innocuous little sandwich may seem non-threatening, but it was actually the most deadly thing on the battlefield. Well, I mean, not really. Since the sandwich was released, it has been most Heavy's secondary of choice. It's easily one of the most overall useful weapons in the game. Being able to heal off all your damage in just a few seconds and throw a health kit for a friend, what could be better? Well, what if you didn't have to activate the taunt to heal yourself? What if you just throw the Sandvich on the ground and eat it for yourself? Well, from September 2009 to February 2012, the Heavy would heal 50% of his health from his own thrown sandwiches instead of just replenishing the bar. You could get back 150 health almost instantly and no one could do anything about it. You all probably remember the days when the Dead Ringer dominated. They're finally over and people have finally decided to try out Spy's other watches from time to time. Since the watch came out in 2009, you just kinda had to assume every Spy you killed was not actually dead, because 99% of the time, they were Dead Ringer. And 95% of the time, they were not subtle about it. 90% resistance to the attack that triggered it and no bump shimmer when you run into people. And it even charged 80% faster. Easy to use, hard to punish. Dead Ringer received a massive nerf and some tweaking in the gunmetal update. Maybe even slightly too much of a nerf. But hey, now that people have begun using the other watches, people don't automatically assume you're Dead Ringer. It's actually a surprisingly helpful, albeit indirect, new upside. The Degreaser. The only weapon on this list to be effectively unchanged since it came out. This weapon offers a massive upside for two practically insignificant downsides. It might as well be an upgrade to the stock flamethrower. It makes Pyro's weapon combos almost insultingly easy to pull off, combined with Air Blast's weird momentum cancelling functionality. Objectively, all things considered, the Pyro is often said to be the weakest class in a lot of situations. And while yes, I would like to see this weapon nerfed, I would also like to see Pyro given a bit of a rework to make the class better as a whole. You're going to start noticing a bit of a pattern for the next few on this list, because for some reason the people on the TF2 team don't always put that much thought into balancing Engineer's weapons, and how much of an impact he can have on the game. The Wrangler allows Engineer to take manual control over his Sentry. It allows it to reach places that it never could before, giving it practically infinite range. Sounds pretty good, but it also doubles the Sentry's firing rate and gives it a shield that blocks 66% of incoming damage. A level 3 Sentry can take 648 damage when under control of the Wrangler. Wow! The Sentry does lose its auto-targeting feature when under control, and it is disabled for 3 seconds after you switch, but still. The Wrangler finally got a well-deserved nerf when they lowered the repair rate of Wrangled Sentries by 66%, same as the shield resists. That sounds fair enough to me. Gunslinger, MINI-SENTRY. They kind of go hand in hand. Get it? 'Cause it's a hand! I'm honestly kind of surprised it took them so long to get around to changing the MINI-SENTRY. People complained about it constantly. I guess it wasn't so much that the MINI-SENTRY was overpowered, but incredibly annoying to deal with. It has a deceptively large firing range and a very small hitbox. They're pretty easy to destroy, but even easier to replace. An engineer would place another one down the second the first got destroyed. And bam, without a second thought, the sentry is instantly built and back to annoying the heck out of everyone on the other team. The changes in the gunmetal update made the mini-sentry far less annoying and easier to stop the constant building of them, with a slower base build speed when not actively hitting the mini-sentry with your Gunslinger. An engineer has to build up and maintain his buildings to block the enemy team from doing what they need to do. What poses a threat to your little sentry nest? Spies? Medics Uber charges? Let's give engineer a weapon to counter some of his biggest weaknesses. The Pomson's laser drains 20% of a spy's cloak and 10% of the medic's Uber charge when you hit them. And to make matters worse, when this weapon came out, it penetrated enemies. I don't care so much about the cloak drain thing, it regenerates back pretty quickly, but this weapon really just existed to screw over medics. The medic's heal target couldn't even block the shot because it went right through them and took away 10% of your Uber. And the laser projectile has a pretty big hitbox. Later on, they removed the penetration and buffed the damage to compensate. Sure, okay, that's slightly better, but a random shot from across the map still takes away 10% of a medic's Uber. Then they made it so the amount drained depends on how close you are to the target. So now you actually have to be close to the medic to be able to ruin his life. Which is okay by me. If you're going to go run up to an enemy medic as engineer and shoot him in the face with all his teammates around, you probably deserve to take some of his Uber if no one stops you. Who else poses a big threat to engineers' buildings? Soldiers? Yeah. Demo man? Oh yeah. Let's give engineer a weapon that almost completely nullifies those classes. Now when the short circuit came out, it was pretty bad. Not really worth your time. Fired too slow, costed too much metal to use. Then they made it fire a little faster and cost a little less when you land a hit. It was pretty okay. Then they made it fire much faster and cost much less to use. It was pretty insane. A soldier or a demo man, you know, the ones who actually use bombs, couldn't do anything against an engineer who had this weapon. It costed 5 metal to use and fired efficiently and quickly enough where it could actually kill people semi-effectively. But this only lasted about 2 weeks before it was nerfed, and after that they've altered it multiple times since then. It's almost hard to keep track of all the changes they do to this weapon because they change it so often. Which might be why I don't see people use it so much. I mean, even now it's still a good weapon. That is until they change it again tomorrow. Oh, the Uber update. A great update that added a ton of uninspired, mediocre at best weapons that wouldn't be made good or fun until years later. Among them was the Tomislav. Except the Tomislav wasn't mediocre at best, it was insanely overpowered at best, and stupidly overpowered at worst. This weapon originally advertised as having a 75% faster silent spin-up. Huh, well there goes your need for your right mouse click, because you'll never need to pre-rev up again. It was instant, for a 20% slower firing speed. Instant spin-up, with no sound. Just take away one of Heavy's biggest drawbacks and throw it out the window. And they knew they screwed up, because just 5 days after this weapon came out, the spin-up speed was dropped to only plus 40%. And even then, some still thought it was too good. Later on, they would nerf it into practical uselessness when they dropped it again to only plus 10% faster rev speed. Oh, what a crazy life old Tommy had, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. The gunmetal update breathed new life into the gun by bringing up the rev speed to plus 20% and making the gun 20% more accurate. Finally, it's the pretty good side grade it always deserved to be. But would it have killed you to make it plus 25%? You know, I'm just saying. And before we get to number 1, here are a few honorable mentions that weren't too good enough to make it onto the list, I guess. And finally, a weapon so fundamentally broken, it couldn't be anything but number 1. Gather round as I tell you the horrifying true story of... It's just an innocent little baseball bat, they said. It couldn't possibly be overpowered, they said. Oh, were they wrong? Who were they? Nobody knows. Probably because they're all dead now. You know that minus 15% health penalty the Sandman has? What if it was the inability to double jump? Because it was. And you know how when you hit someone at maximum range with the Sandman's baseball, they're fully immobilized? Like they can't move at all? Imagine if that was every hit from the Sandman's ball. The duration of the stun would still be dependent on range, but any hit from the Sandman's ball would leave you completely immobile. Well, at least it couldn't be any more broken, right? And that's where you're wrong. The Sandman originally advertised as being able to stun Ubered players. Oh, the humanity! I wouldn't think it necessary to tell the TF2 developers they're working on a first-person shooter, not a fighting game. You probably shouldn't be able to stun enemies. Even now, some still question the current stun mechanic. The Sandman has gone through a ton of changes. Most just desperate attempts to make the full stun feature work. At one point they thought giving the scout only 95 health for the ability to occasionally stun people was fair. That's how bad it was. Finally, they replaced the full stun with the fleeing state we have today. And the Sandman was vanquished in the only way possible without entirely reworking the weapon. And you know what? That's good enough for me. This has been the top 10 most overpowered weapons in Team Fortress 2 history. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side.